Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and in this video I'm going to be talking about Batman the Imposter, originally published as a 3-part miniseries in 2021 from October to December and part of DC Comics' Black Label line. Written by Mattson, Tomlin, illustrated and lettered by Andrea Sorrentino, with colors by Jordi Belair. The version I'll be looking at in this video is the hardcover Indigo edition, which was published in February of 2022. So let's take a look at the graphic novel itself. So this is an Indigo exclusive cover, and this cover actually really grabbed me. I think this is a really awesome cover. I like how the reds pop out and you kind of got the backgrounds kind of washed out. Really nice cover. So that is the cover for the Dust Jacket. Now here's a look at the spine. A false Batman is haunting Gotham City. This is the back cover. Take a quick look at the book with the dust jacket off. So this is a look at the graphic novel with the dust jacket off. Really nice illustration on the inside cover as well. This is actually from one of the interiors of the book. Have another look at that spine. And then pretty cool illustration on the back as well. So let's take a look at some of the interior artwork. So right off the bat, this style of artwork, it has almost like this very photographic feel to it. So it's almost like a photograph reference was used or something to do this. Now normally I'm not a big fan of this artwork style, but it really suits this story. Right off the bat, this image here, I like it. Almost looks like it's at dawn. Really nice image. And then here's the title page, Batman the Imposter. Another great image. And as you can see, it has like this very realistic look to it. Like this is a very realistic portrayal of Batman. And Leslie Thompkins is here. She's one of the main characters in the book that we follow along with, well, besides Batman himself. And then these pages here, these are some of my favorite pages in the book, like the colors and stuff. Everything, like it's a perfect marriage between the story and art. Like look at that, looks really good. And then this here is a new character in this story that we end up following as well, is Detective Wong. But yeah, as you can see, as I said before, like a very realistic art style. And realistic, but at the same time, almost, how can I say it? Almost a little bit like the art style is like realistic, but at the same time, kind of psychedelic as well. And this here is another page sequence that I really like as well, overlooking the city with the doves and stuff. Like, yeah, really solid artwork, and yeah, I have to say I really do like it. And normally I don't like this kind of style, but for this story, like it really does work. It really does. I really do enjoy it. And I'll take a look at some of the artwork that is in the back. I believe these were probably some alternate covers for the miniseries. That's still a really good image. This one here is cool too. And then bookends with the same image from the beginning. Yeah, really good. I really do like the artwork. And that is a look at the graphic novel itself. Very nice hardcover book. Now, before I get into my review of the book, I just want to talk a little bit about what it is about Batman that really appeals to me and why he's my favorite superhero. So Batman is my absolute favorite superhero when it comes to comic books, and has been for a very long time, since the late 80s. And one of the reasons he's my favorite superhero is because of this. If you read Superman, Silver Surfer, comics like that, those are cool characters, but they can never exist. They are impossible. Superman can never be real. No one can ever do what Superman does. He absolutely defies the laws of physics. He's pure fantasy. Can never happen. Same thing with characters like the Silver Surfer and the majority of superhero comics. Now that is that's where Batman is a bit different. Because Batman, at least theoretically, is possible. Batman in the comics, he became Batman just through hard work. He studied real hard, he trained really hard, got all these black belts, all these degrees, and he became a superhero that way. So theoretically, someone could do that. If someone had the willpower to go through all that training, they could become Batman and go out there and fight crime. Now, how long they would last before the police arrested them or they were killed is a completely different story. But at least theoretically, Batman is possible. And that's why I really like the character. And that is one of the aspects of the character that has always appealed to me. On top of that, now that combined with the mysterious dark noir aspect of the character, that's why he's my number one. And this story absolutely captures that. This actually captures two aspects of the character that has made the character my number one favorite superhero. And I'll get into it more later on in the video. And out of all the Black Label books I've read so far, this that deal with Batman, this is my favorite one. Last one being the White Knight. I have to say, even though the White Knight gets talked about a lot more and gets a lot more attention, I think this story is way better. It's a way better Batman story. I like this one a lot more. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the plot, give a breakdown of it, and in this review, there's going to be some mild spoilers. I'm not going to try to spoil too much, but there's going to be some mild ones, so spoiler warning. So, what is this book about? So, this is a Black Label book, so it takes place outside of the regular continuity of the DC universe. It's its own self-contained thing. So, there's going to be twists and turns, and things kind of changed around as far as characters and settings and all that stuff goes. So, this story takes place very early on in Batman's career. So Batman hasn't been around very long. And what's interesting about this story is when the story starts off, Batman is stripped of his normal support system. So there is no Robin, there is no Alfred. Commissioner Gordon is no longer on the police force. The police force is not on his side. And really the only one he has to turn to is a character, Leslie Thompkins, Dr. Thompkins. She's a character that's been around Batman comics for a very long time, and she doesn't approve of what Bruce Wayne is doing. She doesn't like the idea of Batman, and she never has. And this is something that is true to the character. The character has always been portrayed this way in traditional Batman comics. She was never cool with the idea of Bruce Wayne being Batman. And this was portrayed in one of my favorite Batman comics, the Batman storylines, is Batman Year 2. She's in that storyline as well. Same thing. She doesn't like the idea of Bruce Wayne being Batman at all. So that's pretty much the only person he has to turn to in the story. Now, he does find an ally eventually in the police department, but for the most part, Batman is really on his own in this story. And now, with that being said, the tides are really turning against Batman here early on in his career. Because in this situation, in this world, anyone can throw on a Batman costume and just go out there and start doing stuff. And that's what somebody does. Someone dresses up like Batman, takes it upon themselves to go out there and deal with criminals in their own way. And they do that by executing criminals. And it's caught on camera footage, and now it's all circulating throughout the news, and now public opinion. Everything is turning on Batman. Batman is now framed as being a murderer. So now the situation was, how do you keep your identity secret and then try to solve this case at the same time? It makes for a really good story, very interesting story. And that's the whole idea behind the story. Batman doesn't have his normal support system. Police department's not on his side. And now someone's framing him for murder. There's another Batman out there. Now I'll get into some of the things I liked about this book. So right off the bat, when I saw this book in the bookstores, I loved the cover art. The cover art just grabbed me. With the kind of like washed out background and then the red lettering and the reds really pop, and it really grabbed my attention. And it's a weird thing. This is something that's only happened a few times in my life. I saw this book on the bookshelf. I seen the cover. And before I picked up to even read the back of it, anything, I just knew I was going to like it. I just knew that I was going to buy this book and I was going to like the story. So I picked it up, read the back. The back seemed interesting. Brought it home, read it in one sitting, and I loved it. I loved the story. Very, very good story. So right off the bat, that's the first thing I liked about it, is the cover. And this is an exclusive cover for the Indigo stores. Now, the other thing that I really liked about this story was it was a very realistic take on Batman, even more realistic than anything they've done in any of the movies. Now, the Nolan films really tried to go for that much more grounded, more realistic Batman. I think they succeeded to a degree, but even still, that's still pretty over the top. A lot of over the top stuff in those movies. I think this one, this comic succeeds where all those other movies failed. It really paints a very realistic world, and this is what it would be like if Batman actually existed in the real world. So I like that aspect of it. They did a good job on that. Now, the other thing is the artwork really grabbed me. And the thing about it is, normally not a fan of this style of artwork that's in this book for comic books, because it's a very, I think, in my opinion, an acquired taste, whether you like this kind of art style or not. It's kind of got like that photographic traced over look. It's hard to explain, but it matches the story because the characters are drawn very realistic, and so the story is very, very realistic. Not only that, the artwork, how can I explain this? So the artwork and the mood of the story and what the writer's going for, they completely match up. It's like a perfect marriage. I've seen this a lot of times in comic books. You can pick up a comic and the tone of the comic and what the story's about and what the writer's going for, and then you have the style of artwork combined with that, and it's a complete mismatch. They don't work together at all. But for this comic, where it's a very dark, realistic, grounded story, it's like a crime noir. It has that crime noir feel to it. The artwork absolutely matches. It's a perfect fit. So in this case, the artwork was a perfect fit. So I really enjoyed the artwork because it really enhanced the story and what the writer was going for. So great artwork. And this is, now, before I move on, this is actually the thing that I really liked about this comic, is something I find is lacking in a lot of Batman comics these days, is this comic really captured that mysterious crime noir feel that Batman should always have, where I think that gets lost a lot, where Batman gets almost too much like Iron Man. It gets too technical, too many power suits, too many vehicles, too many gadgets, too many spin-off characters. That whole crime part is kind of, the noir crime part is kind of trampled down. The mysterious part is trampled down. Where this story, they really capture that. And that's another one of the things that I liked about this story. And it's one of the things that really appealed to me about Batman in the first place. You read that first story that came out, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, the very first Batman story, it's definitely one of those crime noir, two-fisted tales. You know, that was very popular in pulp books back in the 20s and 30s and the 40s and stuff. You know, with The Shadow and all those detective stories. And those stories are really what gave birth to Batman in the first place. So this book really captures that aspect of Batman, and I really like that about it. The other thing I really liked about the story, it was a very tight story, very stripped down compared to some of the other Batman stories I've read. So it makes it very easy to follow. So basically, we only have 3 characters we have to follow in this story. You have Dr. Leslie Thompkins, you have Batman, and you have a new character, Detective Wong. That's it, pretty much. Where if you compare that to Batman the White Knight, when I read that one, basically about the same length and size almost. But you have all these characters you got to try to keep track of. You got the Joker, you got Jack Napier, you got 2 versions of Harley Quinn, you got Dr. Freeze who's in the story, you got Alfred, you got Nightwing, Batgirl, Commissioner Gordon. You got the other black guy who's kind of like the representative of that community, the kind of like the oppressed side of the community of Gotham that kind of gets ignored. And you just go on and on and on with all these characters, and then you got all these subplots, and it's going to tie into a sequel, and all this makes it kind of convoluted and a lot harder to follow. Where this story doesn't have any of that. It's very stripped down. Where a lot of the characters has just been like taken out of it, out of the story. So Batman's a lot more alone. So to me, it made the story a lot more tighter, a lot more enjoyable to me, a lot more digestible than the White Knight. I could see myself reading this one like multiple times over the years. Where White Knight, I don't know, I might go back and read it again, but I already know in my head, this is a Batman comic I'm going to read more than once. Where the White Knight, I did enjoy that comic, but it was a lot more over the top, a lot more stuff going on, a lot harder to keep track of. So now I'll talk a little bit about some of the things I didn't like. So right off the bat, where this is a Black Label book, some of the characters are going to have some twists. And where I'm a longtime Batman reader, longtime fan, some of the twists I'm not a big fan of. So my number one gripe about this book was the characterization of Alfred. So Batman is portrayed as, or Bruce Wayne is portrayed as when he was young, being very out of control youth because of what happened to his parents. Because of this, Alfred is not the father figure that he's normally portrayed as. He's not like this guardian over Bruce Wayne. He's not this loyal member of the family that was served with the Waynes. He just says, hey, look, I can't control this kid. I'm just hired help. I want nothing to do with this kid. And he just dumps Bruce Wayne into the lap of social services and gets off and just ditches him and gets out of the story. And this is shown in a flashback. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I think the story kind of done Alfred a little bit dirty. Now, I kind of where the story was going. You kind of want Batman to be alone, so they got to get rid of these side characters. But they could have done almost like anything else to have Alfred get out of the story besides just him turning his back on Bruce Wayne. And that leads into my second complaint about the book, is kind of portraying Bruce Wayne as this out-of-control youth, where he was always getting into a lot of fights, getting into trouble and stuff like that, where I much prefer the more traditional route of Batman's origin. Because in the past, basically Batman and Bruce Wayne, or Bruce Wayne became Batman the night his parents died. That's where his childhood ends, on that night. He's no longer a child from that point onward. From that point onward, he is an adult. And from that point onward, he is very much in control. Everything, his whole life is then dedicated, and he has this laser sharp focus on what he needs to do to become Batman. And so he has this complete control over himself, to do all the training, to, do the study, all that kind of thing. Like, to me, it's not realistic that you could be out of control, but still become Batman. If you were out of control, you would just end up wandering down some route, maybe like drug abuse, alcoholism, or just being killed out on the streets. You wouldn't become focused enough or have the drive enough to become Batman. To become focused, or to become like that, I would think you'd have to have like iron willpower and absolute control over yourself to get to that point. So I found that a little bit, I don't know, I didn't really care for that twist. And then the one other thing about the story being very tight, very focused, very easy to follow. There's one aspect of the story that was a little bit lost on, it was a little bit foggy to me. And I even went back and read it twice. Still not totally sure if that's the way it's supposed to go. But it was the motivations of the antagonist in the story. So I'm not going to give away who the antagonist is or what their motivations are or what I think they are, because it'll spoil the story. But I'm just going to say this. For me personally, when I read this is the reason they were doing the things they were doing, to me, I wasn't really clear on why they were doing it or what their motivations were. So that part was a little bit foggy. However, with all that being said, a few flaws, but overall a fantastic story. I really like this Batman story. Definitely one I would read again. And if you're a fan of this Black Label stuff and you're a Batman fan, definitely this should be a must-read for you. I thought it was way better than The White Knight. It was a great book. I can't praise it enough. I'm definitely going to give it a reread at some point in the future. And yes, I definitely would recommend this one. Great book, good Batman story, good one and done. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.